Here's the Leslie control switch before being reassembled into the Leslie switch body. I've soldered the wires onto it, and I've soldered these so that the switch is open when it's in the corral position. The way it goes in is it fits over two little pins that are inside of there, little Bakelite pins. However, one of them is broken off, so I taped the broken piece on there, and it should provide enough support when the metal brackets are put on it. Now the mounting brackets are on the Leslie switch, which is inside the switch housing. These metal brackets press down against the bottom of the switch housing and help to hold the switch in place. The same arrangement is used on the original Leslie switch. This is an actual Leslie one. The other one was a reproduction. But it's got those same Bakelite mounting posts in there. These seem to have a little bit of an extra thing to them to help hold the switch on better. But I think the other one will work once we put the bottom on. Now that the switch is assembled, we're going to check for proper switch operation. Corral is the low speed, tremolo is the high speed. So in the corral position there's no continuity, and in the tremolo position there is continuity. I double checked this with an original Leslie setup, and I think that's how the switch logic works. So now what I'm going to do is to mount this to the front of the B2 console. We're going to just drill a small hole in the back of the B2 to allow the cord to pass through. We'll just run it underneath the console up to the front. Now the Leslie control switch is mounted on the B2. I was able to run the wiring back up through a little groove here. You can sort of see it. I ran it back up in there, and that just drops down through this part here. And then I'm going to run it under the console, and I drilled a little hole here where it comes up and goes up into the inside of the console. Now I can put the electronics chassis back together. I've got the resistor here in the power supply going to the Leslie adapter. Last thing I'm going to do is to replace this cap with a 450 volt cap. You can see that this is only rated at 250 volts, but the original was rated at 450 as used in original Leslie adapters. So just to give an extra measure of safety, I'm going to put in that 10 microfarad cap, but I don't think I've got one here. I have to go look for one. So now I'm going to put the electronics chassis back together, where it goes. Here is a Leslie 22H amplifier. This is the old style, which uses 6V6 tubes. Behind it is SouthJK's Leslie amplifier from another 22H that uses the 6550s. This one belongs to a church, and we're repairing it. It's got the same plug-in filter capacitor, although this one just has three values, 30, 30, and 10. But I think the one that's currently made can substitute for it. We've got the, let me see here, we've got the new filter capacitor for SouthJK's Leslie amp. It's an exact replacement, CE manufacturing. And so we'll use it on this one. I think the only caps we have to order is .0047 at 1000 volts. I think we've got the rest of them. This one, it seems like the can is swelled up a little bit because it's not quite standing up there straight, so we'll definitely replace that. Let's take a look underneath it now. It looks like this has a replacement power transformer in it from 1967. I'm not sure of the age of this Leslie amp, but I would say from maybe the mid-50s. It's got the schematic on here. Uses 4 6V6 tubes and 2 5Y3 rectifiers. Here are the old capacitors before replacement. Old wax paper caps. We're definitely going to replace those. This was sort of working, but it wasn't working all that good, so we definitely want to replace those caps. Luckily, these really don't have all that many caps in them. They're pretty easy to repair. This is going to be a more difficult problem, though. This is a Jensen field coil woofer, and it's got woofer foam degradation. I think we may try to just go ahead and put in a permanent magnet speaker and use a resistor to sub for the field coil. Looking at the field coil wiring here, it looks like this got pretty hot at one time. I can see some bare enamel peeking through there. So it's a Jensen field coil. So I think it may be best to just go ahead and go with a permanent magnet, new replacement 15-inch woofer, and then a resistor can substitute in for the field coil. Now, it looks like the field resistance is 2650 ohms. If my calculations are correct, the resistor will need to be about 32.45 watts. So I'll get a 50 watt resistor as close to 2650 as I can, because this probably could be reconed, but I just think for the overall most durable solution will be to just go with a new one, especially seeing how this looks kind of cooked. I don't know if there may be internal shorts in it. It was coming on, but of course it sounded crummy because it was so degraded. And we'll redo the wiring on this power transformer. I'm not sure how much insulation was actually used here. It looks like some masking tape was used on here. Let's check and see how their splice job was. Yeah, they just used masking tape as an insulator. Something we definitely wouldn't do. So the Leslie amp is going to get some much needed revitalization. Here are Leslie motors. These are SouthJK's motors, and I'm going to clean and re-lubricate them. The motors in the one from the church, one of them is still in. I took one out because it had seized up, and I'll take a look at that next. Take a look at the Leslie cable now. This Leslie cable is actually still in service, and I really wanted to make sure that I got this Leslie out of there and got this repaired, because this is really not very safe. This rubber insulation just degrades, and inside of here I took one of the Leslie plugs off and saw there was some just degraded insulation in there. These don't look too bad here, but on the other end definitely there was bad insulation inside the plug. Also, you notice the plug is really falling apart, which could lead to shorts at the connector end. So we really recommend that they replace this Leslie cable, and so we were able to get the cable upon our first inspection of it, and we're going to order a new one for them. I think that we can get a new already made up cable, because one time I made one up just using 6-conductor cable and Leslie connectors, but it'll be easier to just order a new one. Here's the Leslie cabinet. Came from Maze Music in Albuquerque. Here's the upper Leslie motor. The lower one was not functional at all because it had seized, and so let me just locate that one and we'll take a look at it. Here's the lower Leslie motor from the church's Leslie. We're going to disassemble this, clean it thoroughly, and re-lubricate it. I'll probably put some heat shrink tubing on these wires too to just give it better insulation. So there are the Leslie projects. Now that I've got the B2 almost done. We'll probably try and get SouthJK's amp repaired first so that we can test out that Leslie. And we'll work on this one as well. We'll order a new woofer and a resistor to replace this old one. And so these Leslie projects should be done without without too much more time, so I'll keep you updated on the progress of them.